Okay, so as Graham said, and thank you, Graham, thank you, Marcus, thank you all for spending a bit of time. You know, it's not always easy to come out in the evening like this, so I'll try and make this useful and practical. And, you know, the main objective of the time we have together is what I call these 7 steps. You know, 7 practical, simple, evidence-based things you can do to make life better. I'd like to introduce you a little bit to the science of it, but obviously in a short time like this, you can't really do that. A little bit about my background. I'm sort of an experimental child. My dad was a professor of pediatrics. My mum was a psychiatric social worker. So you've got to kind of imagine my childhood, you know, wake up at 4, barefoot runs, cold swims, broccoli for breakfast, psychotherapy before school. So mixed up kid, you know, so sometimes I get things wrong, and I apologize for that. My first job was actually as a soldier in a special forces unit in South Africa. Wonderful training in this game. And at the end of that I thought, well, I better do something good, so I did the family thing and did medicine and discovered, wow, I'm not happy in hospitals. So as soon as I could, I went into sports medicine. That's kind of what got my passion for this. You know, when people come to you and they actually want to be fitter, stronger, better able, more skilled, stronger team, it's a really different proposition to I feel miserable and I want some pills. So I closed within a month my general practice, and I switched to sports medicine, and some of my clients were business people. And I thought, oh, interesting idea, you know. So these athletes, you look at an average top athlete today, and they might have 7 coaches wrapped around them. And then we look at people like you who actually work much harder on a physiological basis than an athlete. How many coaches have you got to keep you on track? Yeah, it's a really important idea, which 20 years ago when we started this, people just didn't get it. Today, this word resilience is everywhere. So you want to open The Economist, you're going to see that. You want to see who the big research grants are around the world, it's all around resilience. You got a conference on resilience, what we're going to talk about tonight is only one small part of it. So you will know of resilience in terms of technology, you know, as your IT resilient, as your backup resilient. But there's legal resilience, there's safety resilience, environmental resilience, there's disaster resilience, which is a huge one right at the moment. Getting an awful lot of funding. Christchurch and Wellington are both cities in the top 100 looking at how do you develop city-based or community-based resilience. So maybe that's a good place to start. I wonder if you couldn't buddy up into groups of 3 or 4, and as IT professionals, just agree amongst yourselves, what is your current working definition of resilience? Okay, the human resilience now. Okay, try it. Just see if you can get with a common definition of what do we think resilience is. Okay, thank you. So this idea of resilience is changing. We don't buy any fixed definition, but we want to stay curious. So where will you see it? You will definitely see it in Navy SEAL training. These guys are the most bulletproof of them all. So when you look at current US military folk, about 30% of them are coming back from the current battles with post-traumatic stress disorder, 30%. Up to 50% are unable to get back into the workforce. Navy SEAL post-traumatic stress, 0. Why? Because they select their people to learn how to counter distress and life-threatening challenge. This is drown-proofing. You have your hands tied behind your back, don't try this one at home, and you've got to bob up and down a pool. The expectation is you can bob like that all afternoon. For most of us, on the second bob, you'll have a panic attack. Your heart rate will go from 60 to 200, your brain will close down, your muscles will spasm, and you'll very quickly inhale water, end up like the guy in the bottom right who's not going to be a Navy SEAL. Okay, but many of them end up passing this, and it is a really good predictor of future resilience. Very important idea. So Peter Gluckman, Sir Peter Gluckman, you know, National Health Advisor for many years, he got the highest order of merit in New Zealand this year. He argues that we've been too good as parents. We're the generation of what we'd call helicopter parents. We watch our children everywhere. We tell them no 40 times more than we say yes. And we're creating a very fragile, fearful young generation who have not learned to absorb adversity and bounce back. So there's even a whisper of bullying now. We call in the armed offenders. And it becomes a major drama. You know, it's important to take care of your kids, but not so well that you actually leave them unable to complete university, to deal with marriage, children, and a difficult career. So we'll see a lot more of rapid bounce back as part of this definition. A second perspective is what we call courage. So when we look at a professional audience like this, one of the things that makes you great professionals is that you monitor risk. Why do we monitor risk? Because there may be problems out there and we may get hurt. We may lose money, we may damage the organization. The emotion behind that is fear. So when you put people in front of a challenge, many will turn away because of fear, when actually their skills are more than up to the task. So the second view on resilience is the courage to try stuff, to get out there, to make mistakes. And for those of you in agile development, you know how critical it is to get out there and put something in front of users, get feedback, keep moving. And the top IT businesses, you know, pretty aggressive with that courageous approach. And again, you know, something we could introduce to our kids. This is actually our office manager's granddaughter. Her son is a Special Forces soldier in Australia, and at 6 years old, she has the bunny tucked down her shirt and expected to abseil down. How many of you would do that to your daughter? And should you? And, you know, that's an interesting question, and there are many ways to do it, but we should be alert to it. Third perspective you'll see in sport and business a lot. Creativity. How do we improve? How do we innovate? How do we understand ourselves well enough to fit with the opportunities that are out there in a creative, effective way? So we can't talk a lot about that, but it's a hugely interesting territory. They talk about flow. You know, when an IT professional is in flow, you are doing 5 times more productive work than someone who's not in flow. And that's a big McKinsey study. That's something, you know, is a whole other subject. And then a fourth element of resilience is connection. And a really interesting thing for you as an audience is to look at your phone and see how many people you love, are close to you, you connected with, or they connected with you today. It's a really important question because we can predict your resilience, all of the factors, based on how well you are connected to the people who matter. You know, have you called your partner a couple of times today? Have you texted them a couple of times a day? Have you sent them a photo of what you're doing? There's very simple things, and you know, the younger generation are quite good with this. We've got to be careful of keeping the balance between human connection and digital connection, because you know, when we do it through a screen, it doesn't open up the empathy systems. We don't actually really connect with heart, and you want to have a bit of both. Really interesting idea. These are, you know, rowing 8s down the bottom right. These guys are trained to row so hard that their sight disappears, and they have to stay connected. And the only way you can do that is through your emotional repertoire. Hugely important ideas, you know, building this idea, this concept of emotional intelligence. You won IT-related data. They looked at emotional intelligence scores over just under 1,000 IT programmers, and they looked at, you know, the percentiles of EQ. Top 10% EQ scores were 327% more productive than the average EQ score. Top 1%, so you know, we're talking 10 or so people, were 1,270% more productive than the average IT's EQ. Interesting, you know. So you ask the question, so what on earth has EQ, emotional intelligence, got to do with programming? Well, it's all about efficient use of your mind, attention, understanding the user, being adaptive, knowing when you need to take a break, collaborating, using people skillfully. Makes a big, big difference. So there's our definition. 4 things. As I say, it's emerging. I would really encourage you to think about your own words. You know, if there's one really nice, useful take-home, could you go home this evening, talk to your kids, talk to your partners, your friends, something about resilience in a way they think, oh, that's an interesting point of view. Hugely important. We'll hear an awful lot more about it. For those of you a bit more cognitive, this is kind of the scientist's view of resilience, is you want to find the relationship between performance and biological distress. Now, for most of you in the workplace, you're expected to redline. Get that project done yesterday. Go hard. No breaks. 14 hours on your bum in front of the screen. And that's what we call redlining. But you can only redline for about 3 minutes. After that, your ability to perform drops really sharply, and you drop into that grey zone. Grey zone is when your heart rate's accelerated, your blood pressure's up, you're not paying attention. Very dangerous area. And then black is when we just bomb out. So this has been done very carefully in sport, very carefully in the military. Just to give you a little anecdote, in 200 years of military research, what they found is 85% of soldiers cannot fire their guns in a gunfight. Just can't pull the trigger. 85% of trained soldiers. They go condition black. How many of your teams are sitting in front of the screen? Nothing happening. No connection. Sitting in a meeting, not hearing anything. It's common. You know, it's certainly around about 10 to 20% of the population. Then they looked at the 15% who do fire their guns, discovered 14% fire into the ground, the bushes, birds and animals, and fleeing enemies. They are unable to fire into the face of an enemy. 1% of soldiers do 99% of the killing. So they thought, well, we found the psychopaths. They did the research. Guess what? These 1% of soldiers are the calmest, most focused, most connected, most loved members of any unit. Because the unit knows that that 1% of conditioned yellow soldiers, they will do anything to rescue you. They'll put their lives at risk. They will not leave you lying out there. They take care of their teams. They are highly calm, focused, and emotionally connected. Really interesting research. And that, you know, is one of the reasons that you see America now totally, and to a degree New Zealand, will depend on special forces. That's what delivers the goods in today's complex world. The rest is what you do, technology. So let's first sort of lesson in resilience. How does resilience fail? Big problem for you guys because it's really complicated. There's a lot of stuff going on. And we're dealing with, you know, gazillions of bits of information. And then we have to think about our brain and ask the question, well, this front part of your brain, how much can it actually juggle as you work through the day? The evidence suggests from a neurobiological point of view, you can work with 4 issues at any one time. That's if you have a female brain. If you have a male brain, it's 1 plus or minus 2. Most men are wrestling with just one dilemma. Shall I screw it? Shall I kill it? Shall I screw it? Shall I kill it? And this is why the man's life is not so good, and we perish a little earlier, and we get into all sorts of trouble and fill up the jails. Please be humble and respectful of this front part of your brain. Okay, it really is true. We seem to focus on one thing really well. As soon as we multitask, we're into a lot of mess. We get tired. That's the reason confusion starts the game. If you're juggling 5 things, you start to introduce switching costs. So if over the period of an hour I'm moving from one task to the next, 5 tasks, I will lose 75% of my mental energy to what's called switching costs. That's expensive. That means you had 5 things you're trying to do in that hour. Each of those things only got 5% of your mental resources. Much better to do one thing at a time. When you operate like that, your brain blinks out. 1 minute you're looking at that screen, you're into it. The next minute the brain just checks out. It's dreaming. Dreaming about tonight, dreaming about yesterday, thinking about that person and this person. That's called attentional blink. In most conversations, you will drop out of a conversation multiple times. Keep your meetings short. Very important to understand how that changes over time. You know, on Friday afternoon, I might be having an important meeting with you, and I drop out. I can actually disappear from that conversation for some minutes before I come back. And do you think the brain says, Sven, you lost it? No. The brain actually says, it fabricates. It makes up what it thinks must have happened while you were daydreaming. And as a consequence, things get very confused. And then you think, oh no, I'm an IT professional, not me. Let's look at a study of judges. These are top judges in Israel, 1,100 hours of judge survey, and it was parole hearings. By the way, these slides and information is all on a handout, which Graham has got. You're very welcome to grab that off Graham and the site. So these judges all said they give everyone a fair hearing. All clients were due for parole, same crimes, due to be considered. If you find yourselves in jail, which happens to IT professionals now, and you need parole, first thing in the morning. 8:30 is the time to go, and you've got a 70% chance of going home. One wonders how much chance you'd have of going home if you were having your parole heard right now. It's less than 10%. And it's hugely important as professionals to understand the cost of running your brain. Even a highly trained brain drops off very quickly. You can recharge it with regular quality meals. You can recharge it by moving. You know, I just got my little Apple Watch, and this thing tells me to stand up. Why? Because that's one of the best ways to recharge your brain. Quickest thing you can do right now to recharge your brain, sit up straight. As you lengthen your spine and get your head lined up on your shoulders, you switch on the blood flow. It immediately improves that. So, really important idea. The judges don't feel good when this gets made public. So the next phase of resilience failure is withdrawal. Ow. How can I look that person in the eye when I've missed my deadline? You feel bad. It's a very important step. It's hard to detect that withdrawal feeling, but you've got to, because that's when you need to connect with someone, go say sorry, go have a cup of coffee with someone, get things sorted out, because it's easy to fix from that stage. The next stage is problematic. So this is an emotional failure. So think of this as, emotion moves us. Emotion says, I want or I don't want. That's how we move with feelings. And your feelings fail at this point. So this is where you find yourself drunk, alone, in front of the TV on Monday night. Okay, you just don't give a damn. It's a very dangerous state to be in, because you've lost the care for yourself. You are self-neglect. And if you're not taking care of yourself, you're often not taking care of others. Your body will step in, and the body will send you some pain, a headache, some eye strain, maybe neck pain, back pain, stomach irritation, irritable heart, perhaps a rash. Something will crop up, and your body is telling you, back off. You need a break. Most of us go straight to the doctor or the chemist, and we get a cream to rub on the rash. We take a pill for the headache, and we go back to doing the same stupid thing that got you there in the first place. We want to love our distress. When you feel discomfort, pay attention. Your body is talking to you. It's asking you to take care. Hugely important idea. And, of course, it can get worse. It does. We have to be honest about this. On one side, say to you guys as professionals, if you haven't been down that death spiral 2 or 3 times, you're not trying hard enough. It is a necessary growing up, professionalization, if you like, to understand that humans do go up and down, to see this clearly, to maybe even educate your kids about what this means so that they can take action. Okay, so step number 1, know how your resilience fails. Think about what the steps are for you, because if you can see them, if you can note them, there's endless room for bounce back. Bounce back is not rocket science. Okay, there are lots of very simple things you can do to bounce back. As a manager, as leaders, you want to pay attention to your team. Do you want to wait? I recently worked with a technology company where the reason we were called in is that 2 people had been sent to hospital. You know, as responsible managers, that's a bit late. You know, ideally, you should be paying attention higher up and stepping in and giving people a little bit of support. Okay, so I'm going to ask you just to pair up and just quickly ask each other the question, do you see any evidence of that failure? And what do you see happening in your business to do bounce back? Remember, in any sports team, they have dozens of bounce back. You know, imagine the Silver Ferns out there playing a game, someone drops the ball, what's the next thing that happens? Someone makes physical contact. Good effort, keep moving. Why? Because you drop a ball in a critical moment like that, you hit withdrawal in a moment. Someone makes contact, corrects you, you can better get back up and play. I think we've got to start thinking about that in business. Is that fair? So just quickly sharing with us, do you see this? Not about yourself, but you look at your work environment. Do you see any of these symptoms? And do you see enough bounce back happening? I'll give you 1 minute. Very easy. Okay, thank you. So, you know, this is really simple. You know, it's in question. You know, I'm in an organization. It's hell out there. Everyone's asking me to red line. Half my team are down the gurgler, and the boss says, keep working. You've got a problem, haven't you? And in any situation, part of this you can say it's an organizational responsibility, and we see this happening very quickly in organizations. People know if you want good people working for you, you better think about this. If you want to destroy your business, then just let it happen. But there's also an individual responsibility side. So, you know, at the very least, each of you can maybe take the message, all right, so I know what happens when I do go down. Here are my warning symptoms. I will take responsibility to do something, even if the world out there is a little mad. And it is. It is. I think it's really important we own up to it. Now, there's a positive side as well. And it's really useful to understand, you know, how many of you are managers, just so I have an idea, manage a team of some sort? Yeah, it's so important to understand, you know, when you look at running a team, there are sort of 4 lenses to resilience. The first question to ask yourself, how am I? Where am I? What's my altitude? Am I waking up, let's rock, feeling good, having a great day, getting home and saying to your kids, I love my job? Your altitude is high. You know, if you're dragging your broken body and brain into the home and yelling and kicking the dog, you're pretty low. Okay, so question, how am I? We call that insight. Second question, you've had a bad meeting, you've got another meeting. Do you really want to drag the baggage of the last meeting into a fresh meeting? How do I master my state? So if I am in a withdrawn state, but I've got a really important sales meeting, how do I get up a few levels quickly and fast? And that's some of the stuff we're going to talk about. That's what we call mastery. So insight and mastery. Third perspective, empathy. Where is this person I'm meeting with? And how do I tell? Because if I can understand where I am and I can understand where someone else is, the fourth lens opens up, which is influence. And you know, if our job in life, if anything, is to try to improve life just a little for everyone you touch. But to do that skillfully, you have to understand yourself. You've got to be able to take care of yourself. You've got to be able to really pay attention and understand others well. So 4 little simple ideas to think as we go through this. So the first layer is simply how to be calm. And I'd like to demonstrate this. Would anyone like to volunteer for a quick biological experiment? Won't take a moment. Come on up. That's like a huge raise up. Excellent. Sorry, I think I've disturbed this device. Let's pray. There we go. Thank you. So your heart's all pretty good?
As far as I know.
Okay, good. Take a seat. So now you can sort of see, so how's Ray doing? What's his level? You know, is he way up there or is he in a mess? And if we don't like the fact that he's doing so well, how do we torture him down? Or if we want to be good today, we could ask the question, how do we improve Ray? So this is very simple, elementary biofeedback. Just making sure I've got a good connection there. I push the go button, and all going well. Ray, if you just pay attention to that screen, we should see over here, oh, there we go, there is Ray's heart. Good news, you know, IT professional with heart. And he got quite excited with that, he actually missed a heartbeat. And you can see his heart whacking along pretty quickly. And if you look at the top panel, what you see there is Ray's heart rate running between 70 and 90 beats per minute. Now, what this thing also does, it looks at the way your heart changes. It's a very important function. So this guy's in pretty good shape. So I want you guys to think about some news that Ray would not like you to share. You know, something, anyone know any secrets about Ray that... and we can watch to see if he has or hasn't got secrets. If his heart rate goes up, yep, it's gone right off the panel, he's got secrets. So what you see is that any doubt, the heart accelerates. Vroom, it goes up around 100. Then it slows back down. And the way your heart slows and accelerates gives you some measures. Ray's an incredibly relaxed guy, so you're going to have to tell me some more secrets. Anything you know about Ray, you know? What should he worry about in his business? Was that really bad news? He's thinking about it, but he's actually doing really, really well. So what we're going to look at is how he travels on that red, blue, and green column. When we're in a good state, we're on the green side. When we're on the red side, we're in a bad state. Now, Ray's a really cool dude, so we get people in green like this without help very rarely, maybe 1 in 100. So you have a gem in front of you. You really do. And, you know, maybe I've got to massage him or, you know, just, and then if that doesn't work, I'll turn on the electrics and see how that works. Yeah, you see this guy's so relaxed, huh? You get a little bit of excitement there. So he's aroused, if nothing else. I tease, but I can't get the guy locked out. But let's see what he does just simply if you do a simple training and how it changes. So if you can all sit upright, Ray, you too. So a nice long spine. Remember we said that earlier. If you all fix your mind on that curve and breathe out as the line goes out. So everyone's breathing out, 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 out. Now take a nice big breath into the belly. Fill your lungs. And then exhale slowly. So there's about a 5-second delay. You can see the massage knocked him into red. Gently inhale to the belly, through the nose. As you get towards the top and it starts to slope down, everyone breathe out. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then slowly breathing into the belly again, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000. And then out. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And if you just follow that, Ray, so 3-second inhale, very gently through the nose. Max scan, what are you doing there? Go away. And just keep with it. And you see something different is happening, isn't it? Even though this guy's got really good biological stability, you can see a different shape. His curve is going up very steeply in the bottom left. He's firmly in green. And what you've got is this sine curve. When your heart moves in a sine curve, you are biologically resilient. You're calm, you're focused, you're connected. So, you know, the question you could ask is how many times a day should we take 30 seconds to do this? The evidence is really clear. It's fascinating. You can even cure diabetes by doing 20 minutes of practice a day. You can improve your heart function. You increase your longevity. You reduce the risk of heart attacks, of dementia. It is absolutely fascinating. I mean, this is now, along with blood pressure, one of the key things. And you can see how steady Ray's heart rate is also coming down a bit, but he's got a beautiful bulletproof sine curve. He is coherent. That's an awesome demo. I mean, what else can you say? You don't often get people who A, have such good baseline, and B, with a little bit of coaching, get such a steady curve. Ray, round of applause, man. And Ray, thank you for your volunteering. Welcome, Dunted. Would you like a gift? Ray, would you like a gift?
I would love a gift.
Choose one.
Oh, that one.
It's yours.
Thank you. Awesome.
Thanks for your time. Whoops, we've temporarily lost our device. This is called M-Wave Pro. A company's called HeartMath. It's in the notes I'll send to you. Ooh. So we'll let that just do its thing. The challenge for us is that when we face, say, a difficult email or a challenge from your boss or a road rage event, is the default human reaction is to go, you hear this on the radio sometimes, you'll hear it in Parliament. And what do people say when you're looking a little distressed? Take a deep breath. So we go, it's exactly the wrong thing to do, because as you saw in Ray's case, when you breathe in, your heart accelerates, your blood pressure goes up, you're putting strain on your system, you're going into the distress side of biology. You're going towards black. It also makes it very hard to focus and very hard to hear another person. So we want to change that and get to a different response. So the actual technique, and there are many, many ways to do this, is to exhale when you're challenged. And you exhale, as Ray showed so nicely, your heart slows. When your heart slows, over a couple of breaths like that, remember always by breathing out, you slow the heart, your blood pressure comes down, blood comes back into the front part of the brain, and your empathy portal, your ability to connect with people, wakes up again. So simple. And yet so few people use this sort of technique on a regular basis. It's very linked to your breathing, which means it's bulletproof. As long as you can breathe with your diaphragm, you will massage your heart into that pattern of coherence. So you can see how the diaphragm, when I breathe out, my diaphragm relaxes upwards. It takes the pressure off the heart can fill more, and that allows the heart rate to slow. As I breathe in, I tighten the diaphragm, I pull and squeeze the heart, and it's forced to beat faster. So no matter how bad the situation is, you can always take charge of your physiology. The more you practice this, the more it becomes your background state. They call that vagal tone. So, here's kind of what our recommendation is not to become a monk, because that's not going to work in your industry, but to be really good at tactical calm. So you hit a difficult point, you feel yourself, stop, exhale. Hold it. Gently in, and just 3 repetitions. As you saw, it only took Ray 3 breaths. Some people might take a little more in the early stages. With the biofeedback, it's really easy to do this very, very quickly. Now, this has really taken root. I had one in February, a professional soccer player that I met last year. He was part of a company conference, and he heard this breathing thing, and he had, I think it was 6 goals in, 12 misses in the previous season, and he was not going to get his contract renewed. So he applied a breathing technique like this, a military version of it, for when he was doing his kicking. And he got his score to 8 in, 2 misses. And they re-signed his contract for another 2 years. So, when I caught up with him again a year later, this guy came howling and said, look, I have to tell you, this stuff really, really works. And, if you can gently encourage your kids to do it, there are all kinds of lovely applications. So, how many of us got kids that don't sleep very well? What about teaching them to breathe? And get them confident that they can breathe themselves to sleep. So many years ago doing the MBA, I was like this one night, and I felt my body being so tight, and I knew this stuff, but I'd forgotten it with pressure. As I relaxed my body and started to breathe properly, I went back to sleep after hours. And that night I committed every single night, I'm going to do this breathing practice to go to sleep. Now, 9 out of 10 times, within 5 breaths, I'm fast asleep. That's my challenge. Can you all get confident that within 5 breaths, even if you're woken up at 2 o'clock in the morning, you can relax yourself back to sleep? Sleep is the most natural thing. Have you ever seen your dog or your cat struggle to go to sleep? No. Put their head down, gone. Where are they breathing? Diaphragmatically. That's how they do it. It's really hard to not let a dog go to sleep if it's relaxed. We can learn this too. And most of us are so agitated that this is hard to do. Then up we go to the body. Interesting time, huh? We got some crazy old people. I call them the professionals. Many of you in this room, life expectancy for a woman in New Zealand is 82 at the moment. We're doing really well. As a man, 78. That's if you take care of yourself. Jeffrey Life is a slightly more extreme example. I'll tell you a story just so you know. At 56, anyone here under 56? Yeah, not a lot of us are over 56. Jeffrey Life at 56 was a very fat man, post-divorce, in strife in his general practice, on antidepressants, and a scan showed he had a blocked heart. And he got a huge fright, and he got really serious about gym, and he got a good coach, and he obviously works out of it. Anyway, this guy's won competitions. He's specialized now as a healthy aging physician. He's written 2 stunning books. He's got a black belt in karate. He rides a Harley Davidson. He finished an MBA last year. He's got a gorgeous young wife, and she looks really happy. And he's 74. What's wrong with that party? You know, give it to me. So this is what we call the sort of healthy aging movement, where a large proportion of people are waking up to the fact that health isn't just bad luck. You know, a good life, a long life, a quality life has to be worked for. So, you know, in a nutshell, you can think of your life in a couple of zones. Where are we? You know, if you're on chronic medication, you're in the red, chronic disease, whether that's blood pressure and, heart medicine, diabetes medicine, a lot of us there. Acute illness, go to see a GP. Well-being, feel good, optimized, rock and roll. First half of your life, 45 years, it's a blast. You get your health more or less free. Second half of your life, problems begin. Really important to understand that. This is where about 75% of our health spending is used in preventable disease. Almost all of those elements of disease can be pushed out. We call that squaring the function curve. So how do you, as a busy professional right now, start to look forward and ask the question, what do I need to check? And what do I need to change? And it's not rocket science. You have to understand how you're blocking up your arteries. You can get very fancy with that. I'm not going to do that. There are a couple of key messages. One, we must move. So this Apple Watch, it makes me stand up every few minutes. It tracks my movement. This is the future, what we call the virtuals, where we'll all be tracked. How many of you have got Fitbits or some tracking device? All right, excellent. I love it. Obsessive compulsive, just like me. But, you know, this is because these guys know that by moving your body, you make the single most important investment in living a long, healthy, brain-active life. You know, how many would still like to be earning good money and loving your work at 74? Versus how many of you want to retire at 60 or 65? Do you know the risk of retirement is about the most dangerous decision you ever take? Particularly if you're a man. About half of men 2 years after retirement are dead. Many of the rest are depressed. It's really important to stay engaged, and your exercise is step number 1. A lot of interest now in this idea of intensity exercise. So if you want to get bang for your buck, current science is saying anything between 1 minute and 4 minutes of high-intensity training. Remember, you've got to be fit, you've got to be flexible, you've got to have the strength, you've got to have the balance to be able to do this. But if you could skip really fast or do a few push-ups or dash up the stairs once a day, 1 minute intense, you actually get most of the benefits of exercise. Another little short circuit, get a standing desk. How many of you are on standing desks already? Okay, that's not enough. Should be around 50% of an audience because you guys spend a lot of time in front of computers. It is really easy. You do not need to spend hundreds of dollars. You can build a bench, and you can put those benches facing each other so you can work collaboratively as you stand. If you're standing, your entire physiology is different through the day. Really interesting in terms of the brain effects and the productivity. Sleep's the other thing you've got to do. You've got to understand clearly for you how much sleep do you need. Each of us is different, but not that different. Round about 7.5 hours is the optimal sleep. Less sleep, you start to incur risk. More sleep, you also start to incur risk. So round about 7.5 hours, what the human needs. The average professional in the audience here is sleeping at least an hour less than they need, which means by Friday night you've got a whole day's sleep debt being carried around. And then Friday is when we celebrate, so Saturday the curtains are closed and we sleep in. Is that a good idea? Maybe not, because what happens when you sleep in is your clock, second part of sleep, moves. So if you sleep in on Saturday morning, this is all in the notes, your body will go to Sydney. No, really, because you open the curtains, blue light comes in at Sydney time. 6 a.m. Sydney, say 8, 9, 10. It can be even worse if you, like some of our teenagers, they get up at midday or 2 p.m. So they're actually living in London and trying to work in New Zealand. That's not intelligent. This is called our clock. You have about 5 critical genes that drive your biological clock. You're either a lark, an owl, or somewhere in between. It's very important to know. If you get tired at this time of night and you wake up really early, my pattern, you're a lark. You want to try and run that steady. Same if you're an owl. Owl works a bit later. A lot of people in your industry will be owls, and it's hard to get going in the morning. How many of you are owls? Very high incidence of mental illness. Okay? You don't want to encourage your owl-like patterns. So as an owl, see if you can get to bed a little earlier and wake up a little earlier. And the more regularly you see the blue light of dawn, the more your clock functions well. When your clock functions well, all of your hormones and other systems come into alignment. If you keep shifting your clock, sleep in, wake up early, sleep in, wake up early, you'll be in perpetual jet lag. Disaster for the kind of work you do. And the third part of sleep is depth. It's to make sure that when you do go to sleep, you allow yourself to drop into that deep sleep. Big risk we got today is we're so busy, so intense, we're working till the last moment, checking our phones until late at night. Blue light. Your iPhone 6 is a disaster. It's 500 nanometers of blue light. That's like looking at the dawn sunrise. So what are you telling your brain before you go to sleep? You're saying, please wake up, it's tomorrow already. But the brain doesn't believe that, so it tries to reset your clock to the morning. It'll take you up to 4 or 5 days to recover from doing a text before you go to sleep. Just don't do it. You want to create a little bit of time to allow your body to cool down. Okay? At least an hour. The athletes are saying 2 to 3 hours. The biological studies are suggesting 4 hours we should be screen-free. In our lives, that's not possible. But I've kind of made a commitment to 1 hour. So if I have to work at night, I do. But if my goal is 9 o'clock asleep, 8 o'clock, computers, systems closed. You'll be amazed how that will change your sleep. Just that one action of having a cool down period. If you really want to sort it out, get your wake-up time sorted. Very powerful idea. Now, we should jump up quickly to emotion. I'm not going to say a lot about emotion, but remember, emotion is in your body. Really good question. How many emotions can you name? Most people, the big exercise in this yesterday, 12 was the absolute maximum. There are 412 emotions. Remember, 1,270% more productive if you're emotionally intelligent. Most of us don't even have the basic literature of emotion. You express 250,000 emotions per day. It overwhelms everything you say. We have to understand this game. Basics of emotion, tell you a story about it. This is a couple of years ago in Africa, walking with my daughter, my cousin's son, and my cousin. and we weren't paying attention. We walked into a riverbed and we walked right into a herd of elephants. It's kind of an emotional experience. But you don't have a lot of time to savor it because within a couple of seconds this young bull elephant charged. You've got 2.5 tons of meat coming at you. What do you feel? You've got 3 options. Fear, run. Good idea? Bad idea. He loves to chase humans. You can't get away from him. He shows off to his girlfriend and you get crunched. Never run from a frightening situation. Freeze. Collapse in a heap, that's sadness. Good idea, bad idea? It's quite good. So if you can't do anything else, just fall in a heap. You know, if someone's getting aggressive with you, if boss is going crazy, just lie down. Okay? Oh, really? It's a good strategy. Dominant creatures won't damage, injured things. It's very hard unless you're really sick. What's the right answer? It's anger. So the right thing in this situation is step forward, raise your hands and fists, clench your jaw and go, "Ah!" with staring eyes. You have to show the creature anger. So James and I have both had a lot of time in the bush. We do this almost in synchrony. And this little elephant literally does a 360, he's gone. Back slapping, daughter's laughing, lots of fun. Dad comes out of the bushes. No pictures of Dad. Biology takes over. Split second, my daughter's on the ground. She has a freeze reaction. My cousin runs. He had a bad experience. And James and I are left there trying to... a 6-ton monster. Anyway, it didn't have a happy ending. These are what we call amygdala hijacks. First thing of emotional intelligence. Know when you get triggered. And not a lot of elephants here, but trust me, there are plenty of toilet seats. There are plenty of dishes waiting for you back at home. It may be the toothpaste cap. It may be the person who drives badly on the way to work. And we get triggered. And it's anger, it's fear, or it's sadness. Really important to see those, because when you can see them, you step your brain into high functioning state. So let's say I'm in front of the elephant, it feels bad. If I can say fear, I'm feeling fear, the front of my brain lights up and I can stay there. If I can't name the emotion, the automatic body, the lower brain takes over and I run. Okay? Same thing when you get angry, same thing when you burst into tears. Hugely important to understand that we can manage these things. It's tricky territory. Don't take it too far. Some of you got the wheels for it, some of you don't. Last one, I'll take some questions. So mind, it's quite an important thing. We think, yeah, wonderful brain. My advice to you, don't think. It's the most stupid thing you can do today. Let me give you the reason for that. You have 50 to 70,000 thoughts per day. If you watched all of your thoughts, how many of those thoughts are actually helping you? Very rarely can people name a useful thought. The reason for that, at least 95% of your thoughts are about the past, and almost all of that time you get angry about it or sad about it. The other part of your thoughts is about the future. What if? Oh my gosh. Fear. When you think, you suffer. You don't want to think. You want to be able to control your monkeys. So you're lying there at night and you wonder why you can't sleep. Part of the reason is your monkeys got loose. They're worrying about the mortgage and your boss and, project you're working on that's falling apart. And they're having a complete lunatic attack. And your body's sitting there. Of course you can't sleep. You've got to kind of see those wild monkeys and say, guys, Daddy's trying to sleep. Let's all cuddle up, have a good night's sleep, and I promise you I'll worry about the mortgage in the morning. All right, you've got to make friends with your thoughts, bring them closer, be present. If your mind is fully present to the moment, things happen the right way. There's an awful lot of science around that. If you overthink, you will suffer. Yeah, very simple method to start to see when my monkeys have lost themselves in the past or lost themselves in the future. Bring them home. You have to pay attention to the mind. You've got to keep it quiet and, so shut the thing up. All right, guys, so look, there's a sort of summary of what we've covered in very short order. It's obviously a big topic. As I say, there's a set of notes that Graham has. You can have on the website. So, by all means, download that. We've got lots going on our website. We've got a new website coming up. I've brought, as Graham said, a couple of books.